The EU currently is treating refugees and asylum seekers or illegal immigrants worse than we are, isn't it?
Well, I think the entire situation demonstrates the degree of hypocrisy within the European Union and the United Nations. The piece that you've quoted, the piece that I authored for the Daily Mail, which was published today, it shows that many of those schemes involving the European Union, EU finance, and involving the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, some of these schemes have been ultimately responsible for relocating migrants to Rwanda, which is why I find it remarkable that individuals within the United Nations in particular are now critical of the UK-Rwanda partnership, migration partnership. I think we had the German ambassador as well saying that Germany would never do such a thing. But the reality of the matter is what Germany does, it works through the European Union. Patrick, in terms of that migrant relocation process.
Absolutely.
They do it through the back door, through the European Union.
Absolutely. And what I would argue as well, Rakib, is that these people are arguably, on paper anyway, more genuine refugees, if that can really be counted as a thing, because they've come almost more directly from the source. I actually not just only went to visit the refugee camps on the Syrian and Iraqi borders, I walked through Morocco and into the Spanish enclaves of Ceuta to travel that migrant route, to get it firsthand myself. And the idea that if you are kept in a detention centre in the UK and then flown to what is essentially a four-star hotel in Rwanda, and that is worse than the conditions the EU keep you in, is an absolute falsehood. It's a complete falsehood, and I'm sick of it, and I'm glad we can reveal it live on air here. But we can see protests, can't we? We see protests all the time, left, right and centre. In your opinion, Rakib, should they be protesting the EU?
Well, I think that when it comes to the protests, I think much of it is directionless. I think that when we're talking about the UK, we've seen many people who oppose the UK-Rwanda migration partnership, but they don't produce particularly viable alternatives themselves, especially alternatives that would help to strengthen our border security system, security-oriented reforms that would help to bolster social cohesion in the UK. I think that when we're looking at the EU and the United Nations in particular, I sense that the EU naturally, there's a degree of bitterness over which is Brexit related. Well, I think with the UN, its various agencies and bodies have clashed with the Conservative government, especially on matters of race, including the Sewell report. So I suspect that there's a bitterness there as well. So I think we have to examine all the various institutional dynamics at play and realise that the reality of the matter is the UK-Rwanda migration partnership it's not something that's particularly unorthodox. I'd make the point as well, Patrick, if I may, that the EU and the United Nations has also been involved in relocating migrants to Niger in West Africa. And that is a country which is certainly more fragile and more unstable than Rwanda. Rwanda's helped to fight and control a jihadist insurgency in Mozambique. Meanwhile, Niger has a very serious problem in terms of Islamist-inspired violence.
And what I find amazing is that it doesn't appear to me, Rakib, anyway, that the ECHR has made any attempt to block anyone going to that hellhole in Libya that you so articulately wrote about, or those times that some of those people there have been sent to Rwanda or Niger. Is that happening? Because that would make it even more extraordinary that this foreign court has got involved in our laws.
Well, I think it's absolutely remarkable. In a sense, I felt that the failed deportation flight to Rwanda, it was a win for the UK government. Ultimately, we had a French-based foreign court intervening in a democratically elected national government's attempts to combat illegal immigration, which I thought was a remarkable state of affairs. And I think that we've seen in recent times that the Prime Minister, his ratings have taken quite a dip, but this entire episode presents a golden opportunity for him to present himself as, once again, the anti-establishment defender of national sovereignty in modern-day Britain.
What do you feel about it, Rakib? Last question. If we just ignored the ECHR going forward?
Well, I think that the UK government doesn't really have a choice, Patrick. I think it's heavily invested in the UK-Rwanda migration partnership. I think there's a great deal of political investment in that. I do sense, though, that the UK government has to understand that if it increases the salience of illegal immigration as an issue, if it makes that as the central issue affecting modern-day Britain, then it really has to deliver on that. And if that means leaving particular multinational organisations, then it may have to take that step.
Exactly. Dr. Rakib, thank you as ever, mate. Great to have you on the show. Dr. Rakib Ehsan, I think actually we should all be grateful for the article that you put out there with that fantastic level of detailed information that, frankly, has blown the whole thing wide open, OK? There's no way that I will ever take anything like the kind of rubbish, frankly, that we've taken from the ECHR again, having learnt what Dr. Rakib has educated us on this evening. If you are just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday Night Feast, don't worry, we'll have some levity later on, but I wanted to make a really, really important point here, which is, frankly, those bleeding heart liberals who are saying that our Rwanda scheme is inhumane and they drape themselves in the EU flag, they want to look a bit closer to home, or should I say Brussels, because it's much, much worse what they're doing.